No, we really
things we do when we're bored.
Everybody.
I'm going to limit it down to 3.
Well, here it is. It's 1,300 hours Eastern Standard Time, May 31st, 2011. This is the Equipped to Endure podcast, special edition. And today, how's everyone doing today? Everyone doing well?
Yeah.
Happy.
Well, we have a special guest host today, Mr. Ron Hood. Ron,
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming out with us today.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Thank you for having me. Stop laughing, damn it.
I know we've already been on the line now for over an hour. So hey, gang out there, let me just give you a point of reference. We had an awesome show lined up for you today, and we had some survival spotlight to go over and our picks of the week. But we're going to can all that because we got Ron on early. We just thought that we would talk with him the whole show, and I think, as of right now, we already had some good material we might have to go back to and talk about again because it's been good stuff, and we've been sitting here laughing our butts off. But before we get into that, let's make sure we get everybody on here. Mr. Robert Oliver. Robbie, how are we doing today, bud?
If I was any better, man, it would probably be illegal.
Awesome. And Joseph, how are we doing today?
I am doing just fantastic. I've had way too much coffee, so we're good. We're golden.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've had
platinum.
I've had too much coffee too, and I'm probably have to find one of those water bottles I was talking about earlier. So, Ron, how are you doing this morning? Because you're over there on a little bit further west. It's a little bit earlier for you out there, right?
Yeah, it's about 10 o'clock over here, and we're up in the north part of Idaho, way up north, close to those gender non-specific Canadians.
Canadians. Gotta love them. So we have a lot to go over today, and Ron, I'm just going to give everybody a little background about you. Not that they already don't know about you, but Ron, you have a BA, MS, and you're actually we're working on your doctorate. I guess you call it an ABD, and I don't know if you want to go into that or not, but I heard there's a lot to go in there. You served in military intelligence community for a while with the Army Security Agency. After training, you spent years in the Middle East, nearly 18 months in Vietnam. Taught accredited classes in wilderness skills at 2 universities full-time for over 20 years, authorized numerous articles in national magazines, published a guidebook to the Sierra, and had appeared on many TV shows, radio programs, different shows. You got a couple different knives that you've worked on, and you've basically done it all. There's nothing I could go on. I have actually got three pages of your background, so we're just going to touch on a couple things for time's sake. You're also the proprietor of Survival.com, the Hoodland Forums, Survivor Cordy Magazine, the Woodmaster video series, 21 volumes, and I guess your wife does the cave cooking videos, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
I actually
my wife loves those.
I love cooking in the woods, but of course I've been out there cooking with Ethan Becker out in the woods, and so now I'm spoiled. So,
oh yeah, that'll do it.
Right. So some survival basic videos, urban master videos, and of course your knives, the Hood Hunter, Hood Woods, the Hoodlum, both from Tops and Buck, and also the ATAX. So Ron, thank you for coming on the show. Was there anything that I missed there?
Yeah, he was. There's a ton, man. He's been here. I don't know. Well, before the internet isn't saying much. Before Sigourney Weaver, before the dawn of the survival stuff, there was Ron.
Dude, let me tell you, when I was growing up, there wasn't even television. I mean, could you imagine that? We actually had to maintain our interest in the world with things like rocks and sticks. It was horrible. Yeah, steel was a new invention when I was growing up.
Yeah, you walk to school both ways, uphill with no shoes on, right?
In the snow.
The snow. Good stuff. So we had a great weekend here on the Equipped to Endure side. Robbie and I just got back from a training course, and we had a pretty good time, right, Robbie?
Had a blast, man. Had a blast.
Got to do a little primitive survival stuff. Got to do a little canine stuff. Got to do a little firearm stuff. And then today we get to talk with Mr. Ron Hood. So man, it doesn't get better than that. So let's just go and dig into this. And I don't even know where we should start, guys. We've been talking about so much great stuff. But Ron, why don't you just give us any more background information that we're missing, and we can just jump in on crazy stories from there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't know where to say. You said something about the doctoral thing. Yeah, that was going on. I completed all of the studies. The only thing I walked away from is my last 2 chapters of my dissertation. I had an opportunity to move to Idaho. I could live in Southern California, move to Idaho. Let's see, a doctorate I will use or move to Idaho. I'm going to Idaho. That was it. That's nothing political. It's just one of those decisions that you make. You think, well. I was after the information. I wanted to know stuff, and I got what I wanted out of it. So.
That's awesome. I mean, hey, I think that's ultimately that's what it's for. I mean, the piece of paper is for everybody else, but if you're walking away from the information that you want to, I guess, ingest, I mean, that's the end goal, or at least that should be the end goal. So, but tell us about the website. Tell us about survival.com.
Actually, it was about 1994, I think. It was something around in there. The internet was just starting to grow. There were, let me back it up just a little tiny bit here. When I was doing my doctoral studies, what I was looking at was the effect of a computer-mediated electronic communication system. In other words, what happens when people get on these, what at that time were BBSs, bulletin board systems. And BBSs were kind of the way that organizations, management, and that kind of stuff was conducted, was through something like a BBS. And it was all very, very primitive. At any rate, I saw that there was potential there for communication about wilderness survival skills and urban skills and so forth. So I said, wow, look at this internet thing. It looks pretty cool. And they were just beginning to sell domains. At that time, a domain name was about $300, so it was a significant expense. Mm-hmm. And maintaining a website was something like $150 a month just to rent the server space. So, and you were not allowed to do any commercial stuff. That's another minor issue that came up. Anyway, I jumped on it, got it, and maintained it ever since. And, it's been an awesome experience. Met thousands of really cool people, and I learned something every day. I mean, every single day, somebody will write me and say, oh, look, have you ever thought about doing this that way? Oh, I don't know. If I did, I forgot. But, it looks really cool. I'm going to try that out.
And that's what it's all about. I mean, information sharing and learning, and that's what we thoroughly enjoy here on the program and through YouTube and everything else. And it really is something where even nowadays I can be out there doing something in the woods, tooling around, and pull out my cell phone, record a video, post it up, and share it with my buddies and my friends out there in the great vast internet. And it's just a great tool and a great opportunity, as long as you use it right, of course. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, we have a saying here that survival is all in your head,
mm-hmm.
and literally that's the truth. If you've got the knowledge, it can't be taken from you. You can take your gear, or you can lose your gear. As long as you've got the skill and information wrapped up inside your skull and you're conscious, you can do it. You can make it.
Which is why I wear tinfoil.
You've been wearing that for a long time, ever since you got out of that mental place in New York City.
Well, all you got to do is dig out that chip they put in the back of your neck, and you'll be good to go from there.
Really? Oh, you got a chip. I got one of the new crystals.
So, let's Ron, if you don't mind, let's just jump into some equipment type questions, because I've been holding off on this. We've talked a lot here before the program started, but I want to talk a little bit about EDC if we can. I don't want to rush anything, but what's in your everyday carry?
Oh, you're going to be disappointed.
Oh, don't disappoint me.
I'm definitely going to disappoint you. I live in Idaho.
Uh-huh.
What the hell do I need? No, I carry a pocket knife with a saw on it. I've got my handgun, which is always going to be with me, or two, and money and lock picks.
Awesome.
And that way everything belongs to me.
So.
It may sound weird. The everyday carry is, if you burden yourself with stuff, it's just going to be a bunch of crap that you've got to remember that you've got, and then you got to you go, what do I want to use this for? Or if there's an emergency or something, then do you use your knife or your gun? You've got to do all these evaluations and what have you. So I try to keep things really simple. Use knife.
Keep it simple, right? Well,
yeah, absolutely.
I see you're a Scotty Vest fan.
Oh yeah. I like Scott. I've known Scott for about a decade now, since he first started that company. He was living in New York.
Mm-hmm.
He some of that stuff is just amazing. I mean, It's just the quality on it is awesome.
Well, I kind of use. I have one of the fleece ones, and I'm even wearing it in the summertime. I don't care. Like, I'll wear it at least out to my car. But so what I usually do is, you always run out the door and you forget stuff. But I position that at my front door with all my gear in there that I need. That way, if I just need to grab it in my EDC bag. But yeah, that's good to go. I mean, I guess it's a good philosophy, and I guess a man of your experience can kind of procure anything that he needs out there if it comes to that. So,
okay, let me get this term right. You've got EDC, Everyday Carry. That's just the stuff that if I hop in the car and run down someplace, this would be the stuff that I've got with me. If I needed to bug out, that's a whole different story.
Oh, yeah.
Then we're talking about some gear.
Oh, yeah. Well, we like to talk about echelon. That's Joe's favorite word, echelons of different gears. So if we need to slap those layers on there as need be, it's there. So.
Yeah, excellent.
Echelon sandwich.
You have to say that word, Joe. Let me hear you say that 3 times fast.
No, I'm not going to say it.
There you go.
Echelon. Mesh
Yes.
metal.
Mish metal.
Yeah.
So Rob, you got any questions for us? I know you've had a couple of them burning.
No, well, the biggest question is, after reading more and more of Ron's background and his military service and all, and watching through the pictures and reading what the evolution was in his, life as an outdoorsman, I'd just love to hear more on that in his words.
Life in the wilderness. Let me, it's all
it's all a blur.
Yeah, it's all a blur. It just goes on for so long. There's just one continuous outdoor experience. Let me just try to make something fall into some. I don't know if this is perspective or not. For about 25 years, I spent better than 6 months every year in the woods eating bugs, and yeah, you get to be a connoisseur. It's something real.
Don't try to talk me out of a good time.
Oh no, man, I'm on it. Look at that, like a phoenix moth. Those are great big moths.
Oh, jeez, man. Sorry.
That sounds powdery.
Yeah, it's about to taste like eating a chalk eraser.
No. You pull the wings off, but then you just munch them down. They're a little bit like a really sweet almond. And, you can eat those things all day long. And there's a lot of protein in it. It's complete protein with all the amino acids, everything that you need. But you don't get very many phoenix moths. So what you end up with is all the little smaller moths, which are good to eat. Flies, they're only good as they're maggots. When they're at the maggot stage, you could what I usually do is put them in a spare sock that I carry. Ladies, a knee-high sock. Are you familiar with those? Mm-hmm. It's really thin inner sock is what we're
I'm wearing some right now. No.
I'm excited. Are we on the right show here? Yeah. Knee-highs, you just put the maggots in those and you rinse them around in a stream and then you toss them in some water, boil them for a little while. These are maggots, remember. And they look like rice. And at that point, after you boil them, get that smell off the top, you toss them out of the sock into another thing, a small amount of water, toss in a bouillon cube, and you're ready to go. It's just,
I know what I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah, it's on, man. Looking for those garbage cans. I can see Joe in there, his face buried.
Absolutely.
Well, Robbie's a big Wild East guy. I mean, here we are hiking just like a normal hike, scouting out a piece of property that we're going to do a class on, and he'll just reach into a dead stump and just pull out a grub just on the walk. It's not like we need to eat anything or we don't have food prepared. Or the car's not 100 yards away from us, but just I'm just going to grab a raw snack here because it's free protein, and that's just. Yeah, I'm more I'll bring some granola packs in my bag, but
hey Ron, do you have best beetles?
Who?
Do you have best beetles out there, Ron? The oak dwelling big grubs and the beetles that kind of hiss a little bit when you shake them.
No, we don't have oak trees here in Idaho. If they are, they're way down south. So yeah, we don't have those things here.
Like almost like a Surrey grub.
Surrey grubs.
Yeah, almost like that, but a little bit smaller.
Do you know what a Surrey grub is, guys?
Yeah, I've eaten a bunch.
Well, I know you have. Yeah. Adam, Robert, do you know what they are?
Yes, sir.
You do? Okay, good. For anybody who doesn't know, Surrey grub is a grub that grows in a palm tree generally. And when I was living with the Chapra Candoshi Indians in South America, that's one of their staples. Because these things are, maybe, what would you say, Joe, 2.5 inches long, maybe half an inch back?
They're straight out of Mothra, man.
Oh, they are. You can hear them when they walk, and they're delicious. But you fry them up, and you get the palm oil out of them. If you just toss them in a hot pan and then just raise the temperature a little bit over the coals, it'll start to sizzle like bacon. And I discovered that, Joe, have you eaten those big snails, those jungle snails, the ones that are like 4 inches in diameter?
No, I have not.
Oh, those are, gosh.
You cook them, though, first, right?
Oh, yeah, they're full of parasites. But, you start drooling.
I'm just thinking about putting a grub not a grub, a slug or something in my mouth, how mucusy it would be.
You guys got me salivating over here.
I bet really. Yeah. Well, the nice thing about a slug is it'll crawl right down your throat. You don't even need to waste the energy.
Have you eaten a slug before?
I did. I actually did it on one of our videos. A big old banana slug, about 4 or 5 inches long. Popped that baby in my mouth, started chewing. It took about 3 weeks for the taste to get out of my mouth. Oh my gosh! Yeah, it was really disturbing. I think that was probably as close as I'd come to barfing in a while. Well, where I was going with that story was those great big snails. If you boil them, you could shake out the meat on the thing and then slice it up, toss it in with a suri grub with that oil that comes out, and you're basically cooking your escargot in palm oil, and then you toss in some wild cilantro, wild garlic. Bingo! It's to die for. It's awesome stuff.
I was blown away at how good those suri grubs tasted. I mean, I would order that in a store.
All right, Robbie, you got to put that on the list for the next camp out menu.
Yeah, yes. That's going on the list.
Robbie, you know where to get them. I guess.
All we were eating last time was just raw salamanders, Robbie. So what's up with that?
Oh man, really?
That's bad.
As part of the class, they are instructed that it's always best to cook everything because of the parasites and things like that. And I generally don't ask the students to eat anything that might give them restroom-related issues, later on in the week. But we do give them a good wide range of examples of things that they can consume when necessary. And it is amazing what tastes good if you can get your mind around the idea of it. Grasshoppers, I think toasted, pan toasted, are actually a wonderful snack.
Well, they are. Here's my point of reference. I eat crab, and nobody's business. And I mean, crab are probably one of the most disgusting creatures in the world. I mean, they're bottom feeders, they're giant sea cockroaches. So if everybody can, pay $20 a pound for crab, there's not much out there that you can't get your mind around that's not that nasty.
You got a dang exoskeleton too. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Well, it's the gag factor, Joe.
Yeah.
People go, I can't eat that. That's nasty.
I think
then there's people who won't eat steak.
Yeah, it's true. Well, I got one buddy who he likes the dead baby chicks. And he just it's kind of a veiny, beaky, feathery, hard-boiled egg, and that's a delicacy. You know what I mean? So but yeah, I guess if you got to eat, you got to eat, right?
Well, yeah. Boy, we sure got onto food in a hurry, didn't we?
Yeah. They came out of nowhere.
What is this? Well, that's what everybody thinks survival is. They think, oh, my God, it's all about eating. And unfortunately, that's probably one of the lowest priorities. You guys probably already talked about the rule of threes. So, you're going, oh, man, I got to get something to eat. And that's always the way it is. Whenever I took kids up, I'm really hungry. What am I going to eat? Well, geez, I hope you don't die of hypothermia tonight because you're looking for lizards.
Yeah. One thing we talk about is how a lot of people, you really can't perceive the difference between hunger and thirst most of the time, and that we're so spoiled in our culture. There's always a bag of chips or a Twinkie nearby for most. Yeah. So the true empty stomach hunger, as it's very very few and far between people actually experience that day to day life. So.
What you're saying is really important because there's a kind of a skill that your body learns when you do a fast. Are you familiar with that, fasting and the effect on the body? To get into a catabolic metabolism where you start to use your actual body's energy, you need to teach it how to get into that state. And if you've never done it, you've always had your Twinkies and your beer and your whatever the hell else you got, your body is just full of always having food. And so if it feels a little bit empty, you feel hunger pains. You let those things go for 24 hours and you get into this catabolic state, and a lot of those hunger pains tend to go away. The first 24 hours is a little bit miserable for the first go-around for people. But, in a lot of the religions around the world, fasting is an important part. And part of that is that people who have had experiences with fasting tend to survive low food times more readily than people who have never fasted. They know how to get directly to their body reserves. If you've been fasting, let's say once for 2 days, once a month, and some people might think that's excessive, but if you do that, you'll be able to access your body reserves in less than 12 hours.
Just be able to condition your body to know what to do.
Exactly, yeah. It jumps right on it. It says, oh, yeah, I know how to ride that bicycle. Bam, it's off, and it's sucking the fat out of your belly. I always call a belly survival muscle. Oh, look, I got a belly. Well, good. You can survive where other people would. But then there's people who walk around with a survival supermarket on their belly and limit beyond the needs there. But the body is adapted to store energy, and we have unlearned the skill to access that energy. So, I always endorse fasting once in a while for people to gain that last little bit of survivability in an emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good stuff. I think I'm gonna start fasting today. Well, actually, Robbie's been dying to do a nice little scientific test on those food tabs. Have you started that yet, Robbie?
No, I've got to get you and my wife on board at the same time where y'all will let me go without food for a week. But yeah, the survival tabs, I'm really interested in documenting the effects on the human body, or especially from the perspective of trying to maintain everything you need in a survival situation, collecting your water and firewood and such things as that, and see how difficult is it to get past the mental aspects and the fatigue issues and all that. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's gonna be. Oh, go ahead.
We'll make it happen one of these days, Robbie.
They're those food tablets. We use them on our survival programs. When you're learning how to fast, one of the important issues is to kind of make sure that you've got a few hundred calories available as food each day, because that helps to fuel the catabolic metabolism and the switch over. And we use the food tabs for that. And those things they're delicious after a few days of not eating regular.
Like an MRE.
I can't wait for my food tab. A couple hundred calories of those things that you're on. It's just it's night and day.
Well, hey, Ron. Well, just speaking of TV shows and everything, you had some really interesting story that you told us before the show started. I kind of wanted to know if you could share that again in reference to the early concepts of some of these Discovery Channel shows.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about Bear Grylls, I take it.
That's right.
Oh,
Robbie is a huge Bear Grylls fan. I mean,
look at this giant can of worms.
He's got like posters up on his room, like a 14-year-old girl. I mean,
hey man, I'm not gonna argue here. I think the man is one of the greatest comedians ever. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in a survival situation with him.
Hey,
but it's better than watching Comedy Central.
Bear is a hell of a nice guy, from what I understand.
Yeah, he is.
That's what I've heard.
You leave Bear alone. But no, Ron, if you could just let us know how that whole idea came to be and how, like, kind of what it.
Oh God.
And Rob, and we'll let Robbie get to that point. But a good observation based off your story. But take it away. Let's not keep the audience waiting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Actually, I want to make something clear here that I like Bear. He's a good friend of mine. We communicate frequently. He's a nice guy. And if you like posters of him, you could probably peel one off the side of a bus in London where he models underwear. When that show came up, several years ago, they called me from England, the producers of the show, and said, we want to put together a survival show, and what we want to do is, and the idea, the concept, the basic concept was that there would be two people in the show, and it would be Bear, who would be about 60% of it, and myself, who would be the other 40%. The concept was, well, let me put it this way. If you remember Charlie's Angels, there was a guy named Charlie who theoretically kind of drove the angels from place to place, gave them their missions and helped them where he could. That would be my job in this show. The Bear would be out there, he'd parachute in someplace, and then some excessively weird thing would happen to him. And then I would say, oh, no, don't do it that way, Bear. You're going to go into hypothermia. Or don't run from a bear. Stop, look at it, and then give him the correct instructions, so that there would be two parts of this. He makes a mistake, and I correct it. And we're going back and forth via radio and satellite TV and so on and so forth. And
it's like that movie Shooter, except with Bear instead over the intercom. Or no, it's a gameplay movie. Anyway, be quiet.
Oh,
keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I was stretching my mind looking for Shooter, and it was a good concept. It was coming together nicely. They wanted to have a bear, an actual bear. I know this is confusing. A bear wrestle bear, and they tried to rent a bear, and the guy who owned the wrestling bear wouldn't transport it to Idaho, where we were filming at the time. So they went into Missoula, Montana, and rented a bear suit, and put one of the guys in the crew in the bear suit. And after I built a shelter for Bear, so that Bear could be in there hiding from
the bear.
Yeah, this bear suit guy would attack the shelter, and that's exactly what they did. They filmed it with in a green screen, so it looked like night vision, and the bear suit was attacking the shelter. And I was beginning to think, well, this is pretty flaky, but I guess I'm going to be talking about what you do when you encounter a bear. Well, as the story developed, he would be running along and ultimately jump into a river and then float down the river. And I was at that point saying, you don't want to be in that water. The water's below 40 degrees. You've only got a few minutes of consciousness before you drop out. You've got to get out of that water, it's like that. But it went along. As we were filming the river sequence, myself and another member of the crew were going, oh, you know what? Let's have some fun here. And I had killed a badger. A little badger come out, and he was kind of coming after us, so I just capped his ass and peeled the meat out of it and cooked it up, and it was miserable as always. Badger meat is kind of tough. But I had the skin, and so I went into where we were staying. They had a kitchen, so I went in and got a flank steak out of there, and I think it was cream of chicken soup, poured it over the top of the thing, and then added some mealworms to it, laid it alongside the river where we were filming. The idea was that bear would come along, he would find this, and then pick up the rotted meat and say, oh, you could eat this meat if you wash it off. And that's what he did. He picked it up and he chewed a big chunk out. Well, the idea behind that was to give the guys in the editing room back wherever the hell they did this, I think it was in New York, a little bit of a thrill. Unfortunately, that became the theme of the show, eating nasty stuff, drinking elephant urine and all the other things that he's had to do over the years. And by providing them with that exciting bit of material, they kicked my piece out of the show. So that was it.
I guess that's karma for you.
So as somebody was just saying here, Robert, it was the whole thing started out as a joke, and that's where we are today. Anyway, that's kind of my real story.
Adam likes to put me in the spotlight as far as my opinions on Bear Grylls, and maybe what I should clarify here is I have no opinion on Bear Grylls. I have opinions on the show as a means for people to learn true wilderness survival. For that, I disagree. But as far as for something that someone who's interested in wilderness survival to have a program on TV that they can watch and be entertained, it's truly great. And from what I hear from, like Adam said, the man is, absolutely one of the first people in the world you'd think of if you had a chance to go sit down in a bar and have a drink with somebody, it would be him.
I've heard, great stuff about Bear. I haven't got a chance to meet him. Hopefully this time. I hope he's not mad about the knife test I did on his knife, but.
And I also hear that he's a big supporter of the Scouts.
Yeah, they love him out there over in England and whatnot.
Yeah, he does a lot of nonprofit things, which is why I like it.
We know
because he helps like 5 or 7 different nonprofit things.
Harry brings his wife and kids out to all the show and the recordings and everything. That's pretty cool. That's got to be fun for the kids and everything too.
Oh yeah. He's a good guy. I like Bear, and as a person, the show has pluses and minuses. Don't do the techniques, but get interested in the wilderness.
Yeah,
I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I think what and some of the things that I think I have a problem with personally is you get these idiots, but I guess they're going to be idiots anyway, that watch the show and think that's what it's like to go to survive, and that's the only thing that's needed to do, and they go out there and get themselves killed. And we literally, Ron, had this 19-year-old kid. He's a film student, and he wanted to go out in the wilderness. He lives up in Canada for 30 days and film himself out in the woods surviving for 30 days. He's got zero training, zero experience. He's asking people on YouTube to give him equipment suggestions. And so we asked him what kind of training he is. He's like, well, I got copies of all the Man vs. Wild DVDs. I mean, and he was serious. Man. And so that's like I think that's the minus. But, of course, you do have the little caption, please do not try these at home.
Yeah, which in the beginning they didn't have that. They never had that disclaimer about the cast and crew is sleeping at a Hilton or any of the other things that we have now. That came out primarily as a result of some exposés in the British press after the first season. Originally, everybody believed that he was actually doing these things, and this is the correct thing to do. Yeah. But bit by bit, the truth came out. And while we were on the shoot, myself and a couple other guys were shooting stills of a lot of the games and a lot of the fun stuff that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And I made up a DVD with all of these photographs on it and shipped it to the crew. I think there were probably 15 or 20 copies went out. Somehow the British press got a hold of it, and then they had, photographic evidence of what was going on.
Yeah.
But, that's Hollywood, and that's the Discovery Channel. The Discovery Channel is all about fake stuff.
I think Dave Canterbury put it out the best. He said, they need, the producers of the show need the next show to be filmed. You know what I mean? They're not going to put their actors or the subject of the videos in so much danger that they're going to risk injury and not going to be able to continue the show. That's just not good business sense. So I mean, it makes it when it comes down to it, it is a business, it is a money making opportunity. So they're going to protect their investments as best they can. So, well, hey, let's move on to something else though, and talk a little bit about your own personal training and survival philosophy. I know it's kind of an open-ended question, but the whole Ron Hood view of survival and training and getting that dirt time in there, because I know we have a lot of guys who trying to fill the void of their to gain experience and have these experiences out in the woods. And so what encapsulates that idea for you?
I don't even know how to answer that. Are you asking about what got me started in this?
Well, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't know how to. When I look back down through 4 decades of this stuff, I got to think to myself, that's just more than that now. But I have to go, what the hell?
What was I thinking?
What was I thinking? Yeah, I could tell you how it started, and I could tell you where the drive began. When I was in the military, I was, as you already mentioned, I lived in Turkey, and I spent quite a bit of time with the Kurds, and I had an opportunity to learn some of the skills that they had, and it was kind of remarkable to see that you could make a compass with 2 pieces of wood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put that in one of the videos. It's called the Ottomani Sun Compass, and there's a lot of little techniques that I could see that these people had that were just to me amazing at the time. I didn't have any concept of how you could take stuff on the ground and turn it into things. And then after that experience, they sent me to Vietnam, and all that time was out in the, not all of it, but most of the time was out in the field doing what I did. And, I picked up other skills out there. I got to see another vision of how primitive people put things together. And I started to get a picture of it. After Vietnam, I had I had an attitude, let's put it that way. I didn't really know what to do with myself. And when I got back to the States, obviously you realize that a lot of people didn't like soldiers. And, I had a low tolerance for attitude. Maybe that would be a way to put it. So when people would give me attitude, I would adjust them. And so I said,
adjust them accordingly?
Exactly, yeah. So they had no attitude. And so I thought, well, the best thing for me to do is live up in the mountains. So I took off and I lived up in the mountains in Sonoma, Mendocino counties areas for, I don't know, maybe close to 6 months, I guess, living off the land up there. Trying to get my head straight, and it worked. I mean, I had an opportunity to learn a lot of things from people that I met along the way, and ultimately I realized that when I'm in touch with the ground, when I feel the earth under my back and I can smell the fresh soil after a rain and all of those things, there's a great deal of peace out there, And then as time went along, I began to see a timeline, and I kind of borrow a thing from Carl Sagan, but if you could visualize a line that's 10 feet long that represents the time of modern humans on the planet. And you could call it 100,000 years or a million years, doesn't matter to me. But even if it was only 100,000, a 5-foot line on that is going to be about 50,000 years. A 2.5-foot line is about 25,000 years. And you start bringing this down. We were living as natural beings in a natural environment for about 9 feet, 11 3/4 inches, living off the land. That was our time on the earth, feeling Mother Earth, being hunters and fishermen and farmers later on and so forth. And it's only been that last little 1/4 of an inch on a 10-foot line that it represents any time in like real civilization. Mm-hmm. So we built on a layer on top of all of our wilderness intuition. We built on the synthetic layer that allows us to live in the environment that we live in today, the modern urban environment. and that is kind of a it's just a really weird hunk of crap that sits on top of our natural being. And and people have dived into that thing, and these are the people that in the old days would have been eliminated from the gene pool. They sit around and they eat their crunchies and watch TV, and everything comes into them, nothing comes out of them. They don't share any of their life with other people. They don't grow or go anywhere. It's just they're potatoes in the stew of life. And I'm I don't ever want to be that way. I always want to be out there, part of it, and sharing. And I think a lot of us, people like you and Robert and Joe, are guys that want to share the excitement of living, and kind of that's where
absolutely. It's
Ron,
it's. Go ahead, Robbie.
Ron, I kicked around the idea of writing a book for a while, and finally decided if I wrote a book and it was published, it would have to be sold and everything. So I finally just started telling everybody this theory, and that is that the evolution of any woodsman or outdoorsman is one day you will find yourself sitting by the fire and realize it means nothing if you don't bring someone else to that fire and share everything you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to that point, you have arrived at that place where you are probably very apt in the woods and will never feel fulfilled until you do show someone else exactly what you've learned.
That's right. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think you've nailed it down there. Yeah. It's when you go beyond just the selfish. Well, I wouldn't call it selfish, but when you go from just learning to sharing, you've taken a huge step forward, and that's what we try to do with our forum. We've got almost 8,000 members of the forum who are always trying to share knowledge, and it might be a little thing. Some people are just in there to learn, and that's fine too. We all have to learn someplace, but everybody shares, and we all grow from that sharing. And sometimes it's just little things. Ours is like a giant campfire, and we sit around and we, oh God, somebody died in our family, and they share that, or they feel bad, or they're bummed out, or whatever. They share that, or they're out in the woods. They learn how to start a fire by friction, or using a pump, or any one of 10,000 ways of starting a fire. So that sense of community is important, and we've lost that too. The internet, we've lost it there. We've lost it on television. Oh my God, did you see what happened on Days of Our Lives today? Oh,
we're moving farther and farther away from one another, even though we're overpopulating. Like when I was living down in Frederick, Maryland, I was working in D.C. I lived in a condo with 16 other units, and when I was getting my job, and I had to, people had to start coming around and asking people about me who lived around me, and I realized I didn't know anybody. I had to go put my suit on, knock on everybody's door, and introduce myself. I realized that I didn't know a single person's name, and here I am living in a bubble, that's a couple thousand, square feet, and didn't know anybody. But you go back 100 years, and you have pretty large communities where everybody knew everybody's name, everybody knew how everybody was related, and what was going on, and we've just removed ourselves, even though we're literally living on top of one another. But you said something else that was pretty prolific about you're back to the dirt and everything, and being one with nature. And one thing that we talk about is how in modern day society there's so much stimulus, there's so much advertising and noise and this and that. We're always being bombarded with it, and we've kind of grown to the point of we just dull our senses, so we can operate. I mean, I'm sitting in my computer right now, and there's advertisement and information and noise going on and different stuff. I'm just being bombarded with information, to the point that when we go outside, we kind of forget how to open up our senses and experience nature how we're supposed to. And I think there's a journey there that people need to get to, but it's very difficult, and it's taxing, and people need to go out there and spend that time out in the woods. I think it's very important.
It is. It cues off those things. In a million years, we've built a lot of skills down. Not skills. Let's call them sensory requirements. I don't know exactly how to phrase it at this moment, but like the smell of the rain. People say, "Oh, that smells good," or they don't notice at all. Yeah. But if you actually close your eyes and take out that huge input source there, and smell things, just really breathe deeply and let it get into you, you'll begin to get some sense of what the earth offers us. It's a powerful thing once you start opening up some of these skills. and I can say our skills because you have to train them. You have to get your nose to work properly. You have to train your ears to hear the way that you want to hear. And as an example, out in the woods when you're hunting, I like to hunt elk, and when I'm out there, I use my sense of smell because I can smell fresh feces. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you whether it was a male or female that cracked that thing out, but I can tell you that it's around, and that tells me by looking at which way the wind is blowing, I'm able to read all of the things that are around me, and it helps me to hunt more effectively. And I don't kill for fun; I kill for meat, mm-hmm. and I like elk meat. So at any rate, those things are like waypoints for our brains. Now let me try to step aside here. There's a thing that I used to call the intensity of participation. And what that means is that in any environment we're in, the synthetic one or the natural environment, we're intensely a part of it, and our brains are absorbing information from a lot of different sources. And it's handling this stuff in the background. Let me give you an example. You're driving down the road in your car, and you've been on this road 100 times before, and somewhere a few hundred yards ahead is a signal, and the signal is green. At the same time, you notice that the signal is green, you spot your speedometer. You say, okay, if I keep at this speed here, I'm not going to make it because the next thing is going to be a yellow light, right? And somewhere along in there, maybe that walk sign goes on and it says, don't walk, don't walk, don't walk. You know what's going to happen at that specific signal. So you increase your speed. At the time you're doing that, you look in your rearview mirror, you're looking for a police officer because you don't want to be speeding. And the last thing you want to do is be accelerating through the intersection. So you have to raise your speed, your velocity up. And I know this is like over-talking something, but you realize that a lot of things are going on. In the meantime, your mind is occupied with some present-day task. I have to get to a meeting, or what am I going to talk about at this certain place that I'm going to? And you make the signal. Well, all of the programming, all of the calculations, all of that stuff is happening in the background because you vitally understand the synthetic environment. The natural environment is even more so, but people have forgotten how to read the signals. Mm-hmm. They don't understand that this is a green light and that one there is not, that this is something that says bad things are about to happen. You look up at the sky, you see banded cirrus. What does that mean? Well, it means that we might have a storm in 12 to 24 hours. Which direction is the wind blowing? Which side of my face is getting cooler? How much moisture is in the air? What do I smell in the air? All of those things can tell you that you don't have long, or you do have a long time to set up a shelter, to find somewhere to go to ground. And there's these signals that exist in nature that people have forgotten how to read, but the equipment to read them is still in place, and so is the mechanism that does all the interpretation, and that's your brain. So I don't know if that made any sense, but
no, that made great. That's a great analogy. Absolutely.
It's really great that somebody's working, hard out there to, break this vision, this tunnel vision that everybody seems to have. It really blows my mind when you see like a student or a child or just somebody else who doesn't get out that much, like realize, oh my gosh, this was around me this entire time.
Yeah,
I didn't know about it.
I'll tell you another thing that really impresses me on the personal side. We have this superiority complex in today's society that we are the best that it's ever been. And while our technology has advanced to an impressive state, the fact that we're all sitting here talking to each other over great distances and communicating with thousands of people right now is pretty impressive, and don't get me wrong. On the individual level, we become a generation of button pushers, and we don't really know why things are working the way they are. We just know how to manipulate them. But when you get out there and you start learning how inventive and how smart some of these ancient peoples and some of these so primitive cultures, we call them, it really impresses me, the ingenuity of civilizations that were prior that let us be here. And it's really awe-inspiring, and it gives so much more respect that they deserve to be out there. Because I'll tell you right now, it's like the day the Earth stood still type of scenario. If all the technology at one point instantly was wiped out, how many people would survive? And unfortunately, it wouldn't be that many. Because we've forgotten what we've known, and we've taken for granted that wisdom and those lessons. And it's kind of a sad thing. Yes, Robbie.
I think that most everyone would be familiar with the old saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Mm-hmm. But what we don't stop and realize is we have turned into a culture of wants, not needs.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so without those needs, our ability to do for ourselves has severely declined.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I went to Romania a couple of years ago because I wanted to learn how the ancients made steel. And I had kind of stepped over the top of a special line that was a Bronze Age. And when I got there, I have good friends over at the museum in Cluj-Napoca, Romania, who allowed me to go through all of the ancient bronze stuff that they've collected. And I had an opportunity to look at the transition from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age, because they have collections that show different things. And one of the things that struck me is one of the very earliest tools that they've unearthed was a spine from some sort of an animal that the ancient folks had turned into an axe. You know, if you could imagine a spine with a little bone that spurs off to the side, if you took that spinal that hunk of spine and put a stick through the center of it, you'd have an axe. You know, because there's that bone spur. Mm-hmm. This is on some animals. At any rate, what they had done is they used that as a model for the earliest of the bronze axes that they were making there. They were actually mimicking nature's design in bronze as they learned how to do it. So I went through there and I learned how the ancients made bronze, and we visited some of the caves that they were doing it in and how they mixed it, and went through the technology and developed this thing. But along the way, I picked up a few of the big bronze swords that the Dacian Empire, which was fighting the Romans, had come across. They'd made a series of different kinds of designs. And I'll be honest with you, I can lift a lot of weight, but I cannot imagine slinging one of these gigantic swords in a battle for literally hours on end. I mean, I can't imagine a guy who probably wasn't more than 5 foot 6 inches tall picking up literally a 30-pound sword and swinging it to protect himself. You know, it was. We talked. You used to say something about us being the top of the line, or we've developed so far and so forth. But it's just amazing that these people were out there doing it, and they had survival skills. They had the warrior mentality. They had love for their families. They had all of the things that were going on, and they could do it all. Mm-hmm. To me, that was more like the epitome of civilization than what we see today. So.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I guess I don't want to get into the social Darwinist aspect of it, but it's like it was survival of the fittest, quite literally. So I mean, those people who got to live another day had to be the fittest, had to be the strongest, had to be the fastest, and also the smartest. So yes. It is very interesting, and I wish we could have a window to see that world. It'd be a great learning experience. So.
We've got a set of videos out about that topic. If anybody's interested in bronze casting, we did 3 videos called Bronze Master, and it shows the trip to Romania, one of the trips to Romania, and a process of working bronze, and then how you could use it to develop a business for yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't even consider these things, and these are the little things that sit under the radar that can help people survive when things get bad. Having that skill is one more thing.
Yeah, another tool to put in your toolbox. Ron, we have about 9 minutes left.
Oh,
let's go ahead. God. I know. We should have told John that we need to do a 2-hour show today. John, are you still there? Can we go a half an hour over on today's show?
Urban Master, Ron. I think some of the prepping community might be interested in those videos. Can you give a quick synopsis on the Urban Master series and what the deal is with that?
Yeah, absolutely. What we're trying to do in there is give people the basic skills for prepping. What do you need? Where do you start? I mean, there's got to be a starting point somewhere along the line. Do you start by acquiring equipment? If so, what kind of equipment do you need? What are the things that people might most easily forget when they're getting ready? Let me give you an example of that. I see all these people saying, food. Look at all the food I've got. Hey, you got to take a crap too, right? So where's the toilet in your outfit here? And people forget the little things like that. So how do you make an inexpensive toilet that you could use for an emergency, something that's not going to take a lot of space, it's not going to cost $200 to get a little chemical toilet. It's just something simple. So we've got a lot of little things like that, and there are just a ton of them. And I learned about a lot of that stuff back in, I guess it was about 1980, 81 or 82. I started a thing called the paintball games in California. And everybody's heard of paintball games, and I imagine, most everybody's played it. But at the time, I had the only field in California. I had bought, I think, 100 of these paintball guns that the Forest Service was using for marking trees. I ran people out onto my property, and they shot the hell out of each other with it. But it was a good business, and it helped people to learn about shooting and why we lose fine motor control when we're under stress. I mean, a lot of people don't understand that. But you know, you go, hey, I'll just do this and I'll just do that. Sorry, pal, but the ape's coming out when you get scared.
You can't. You people don't understand until they experience like a tunnel vision. You know what I mean? You just don't.
Yeah.
You don't understand how everything shuts down and sound shuts down, and it's crazy. And until you've experienced that, there's just no point of reference. There really
isn't. It's a total different world.
Yeah.
And the paintball games help to do that. Help to turn them on to that thing. They go out on the field. Yeah, I'm just going to cap that guy. Blah 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 blah. And then they're talking. The first time they get hit by a paintball, bam, and it hurts. Ash. Then they're on. Changes the world. And this is just this is just a game, for God's sake. And when real bullets are flying, you find that thing. I've heard people say, yeah, if I was in combat, I would have good fire control. Bull.
Yeah.
The first time somebody starts shooting at you, fire control goes out the window. You've got to train yourself not to lose your ability to control your weapon. And instead of holding it up over a pile of dirt and just pulling the trigger until you're empty.
I'll tell you, Ron. I got a couple of buddies of mine, and we all do a little extra training outside of work and whatnot. And we got a buddy's farm. We go to and do a lot of shooting, and everybody there is kind of top shot type guys. I mean, got a couple of firearms instructors there, law enforcement, military for years and years and years, and we could sit there, stand still, put paper, and just shoot perfect scores all day long. But we started incorporating, going back, running up that hill, coming back down, running, and trying that again. And this is with no danger. This is just adding, a little bit more physical exertion, and you wouldn't believe how sloppy you get so fast. And for these people, a lot of people have a lot of unrealistic expectations of their skill set when that dangerous situation or that stressful situation is amped up. And so it's never that easy.
Oh, it isn't. I can tell you a quick story from the 80s. I don't remember the name of the school, and I'm sure they're not in business any longer, but they had decided that they wanted to, in their firearms training, in the pistol course, they wanted to give people a sense of this disjointedness that it happens, this transitional stage. And so they had people with firearms running down a course and shooting the course. Along the course, there were guys with paintball guns. And the idea was that they would get hit if they weren't, if they didn't have cover, or at least concealment. And as these guys ran down the course, they were shot. Well, in several cases, the guys with the firearms turned on the guys with the paintballs and shot at them.
Oh, man.
So, all the good sense went out the window.
Yeah.
They go, that guy's got a paintball. They knew the guy was there, but they lost track of that one little thought that made it dangerous. Fortunately, none of them were good shots and nobody got hurt, but the point was that it was a really stupid training exercise.
Yeah.
And back in those days, I was talking about this whole field of setting up for emergencies. Living in California, we have a lot of earthquakes, or had a lot of earthquakes, and so I prepared for that. There was always a threat of nuclear exchanges and so forth. So I built a bomb shelter. It was 1,200 square feet of.
Oh, is this the one with that winch?
Yeah. Oh, you saw the video of that.
Heck
yeah. Yeah.
I want a bomb shelter.
It was cool, man. It was good. I had an underground firing range and the whole bit. 28 feet underground. It was sweet. It had all the good stuff on it. But during the preparations for that thing, building that thing, that's when I really had an opportunity to study what do you need, what do you really need, and how do you protect it. Are we going to have zombies coming after us after a nuclear exchange? What do you do with your neighbors who want to come in and utilize your stuff? And that's when I came up with this theory. I call it the big mistake. The big mistake is telling your friends, your neighbors, that you are prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Don't tell anybody.
Never tell a man about your arsenal.
Right. Exactly. Or your food, or your medical, or any of the other stuff. And if push comes to shove, and your neighbors are hurting, and there really is an emergency, that's when you could decide how much you want to share.
Yeah.
You might go over and say, "Listen, I found an extra can of beans. Would you guys like to have it?"
Yeah.
Or whatever. That's when you could decide to share, but you want it to be on your terms, not theirs.
Yeah. Tapping in, trying to establish that community, and that's when the leadership side comes in. That's one thing we focused on too, is that leadership of if you're out there in a less than likable situation, that have strong leaders to to help everybody, and because unfortunately we've really become a I don't want to say a country of followers, but a society of followers. Because we're waiting for people to tell us what to do. But on that note, we know, oh man, we're probably gonna sit here after the show and go all into that. But Ron, we got a couple minutes left, and thanks again. This has been great. We'll have to have you on the show a little bit later in the future, and whenever you have an opportunity. And it's been a really good time talking.
We didn't talk about knives. We didn't talk about so many things.
I know it's like Christmas. Anyway.
Hey, can I tell you guys about the website?
Oh yeah.
I just want to send you guys over to survival.com. That's survival.com. Hop on in there. Right up at the top of the bar, you'll be able to see a little bit about our magazine. There's a button there you can click on, take you over to our magazine. There's a place for our general store where we have our videos for sale. We've got some great deals on videos right now. For big packages of videos and all of the other stuff, including the hoodlum knife and the ATACs and all the other stuff that we didn't talk about. And then, of course, to our forum. And the forum is free. You do have to join it, but it's free once you get in there. And a lot of great people in there, some very skilled people. So,
great stuff. Joe, do you have anything else before we roll out?
Check out the jungle living skills video. That is just an awesome video. My favorite of the whole series.
Hey, Robbie, what about you, bud?
The Urban Master series of videos, it makes the point that it's not just for men. Ron's wife shows that women are a part of this society and a part of survival.
Yeah. Well, hey, guys, thanks very much for tuning in. I'm Adam from Equipped to Endure. If you guys have any questions or comments, you can email me at adam@equippedtoendure.com. You guys take care. Be safe out there. And remember, if you're not always prepared, you're never prepared. Thanks.
Eat more bugs.
The other white meat.
Wouldn't that be the other white meat? Because long pig is the other white meat, right?
Not where I live, man. I'd rather eat the maggots than I do.
Oh, good stuff, guys. Good.